I'm curious to see if the ZDM-1 mob shows up in the comments on this video. It'd be interesting to talk to you guys. Welcome back to the Rebel Tech channel. I'm Justin, and in this video we're going to be comparing the Shure MV7X to the Zoom ZDM-1. A microphone that I am very opinionated about. It's one of those microphones that I actually kind of like, except for one major thing, and we all know that. The ZDM-1, or ZDM-1, whatever you want to call yourselves, mob, as I'm calling you, is a very passionate group of people who love this microphone and will just defend it till the end. And I really appreciate your passion. Everybody needs to be passionate about something. For me, I'm passionate about good gear and well-built gear, which it's not. Shots fired, I know right away. But speaking of that, let's get into the build of these, and you know how I feel about this one. So let's talk about the Shure MV7. It's actually got a decent build. It's a little lacking compared to some of the other options that you have, like the pod mic and the PD70 and other ones within that group, and the ones that I've covered as well. But the full yoke mount, the adjustment on here is nice as well. But the body does feel a little thin. Not as thin as the ZDM-1. And I like poking fun at you guys, but it's all in good fun. It's not meant to be in bad taste or anything like that. I'm just having fun. I really do like this microphone. I'm just a little about the build. That's all. And of course, if it wasn't obvious, the build goes to the Shure MV7. But don't count the ZDM-1 out. So without any further ado, let's go into the Techy Talk and talk about the tech, the specs, everything that goes into these technologically. And I will talk about the specifics that I think are more important after I show you the graphic of all the specs. So the first thing that stands out is the supercardioid polar pattern compared to the cardioid polar pattern. This is a major difference here. So consider this. If you're a person who's just casually using microphones, just want to stream and have fun, get the ZDM-1. It's a great price for a microphone, and it has good rejection, excellent rejection of background noise. The AT2040 is also great at it, but it's more expensive. At times, it's twice the price. So consider that. But when you're using a microphone for more higher quality, not necessarily high quality, but higher quality audio, in my opinion, you're probably going to get this one. So this one meaning the Shure MV7. But you could get decent quality out of both of these. I just feel like the quality might be a little bit more on the Shure. But after all these tests, we'll make a decision, and you guys down in the comments, me in the outro, and we'll figure out how it goes. Next up on the specs, sensitivity is pretty much the same. It's 1 decibel difference, pretty much the same. Then lastly, the frequency response, which these are both narrowed frequency responses. Now with the numbers, the MV7 is going from 50 Hz to 16 kHz, while the ZDM-1 is going from 50 Hz to 18 kHz. So they both start off and have the same low end. Then the ZDM-1 definitely gives, well, it obviously gives 2K more in the Hertz, which gives it more presence, more airiness, and that is why I like to use the windscreen on it. In addition to the fact that it has good plosive rejection. But I really do like it because it dampens some of those highs. Because in the frequency response curve, you can see that it's very boosted in that high end. And this kind of like tunes it a little bit better to my liking. Let me know what you think about that. And let me know if it's something that is applicable to your use as well. If you're in the ZDM-1 mob, let me know. So now let's dive into these frequency response curves a little bit more. And the ZDM-1 is definitely a simple frequency response. The Shure is a little more complex. A little more complex in the sense that there's a little more to say. So starting off with the low end, the ZDM-1 is pretty standard, pretty generic, low cutoff right there, and then goes into the mids, which are flat. The Shure MV7 is kind of like a low cutoff, but it's a little wavy. It's got a little bit of a wave to it. Then starts to rise up steadily, not too crazy, not a steep one, but steadily up, and kind of continues with that throughout the mids. The ZDM-1, on the other hand, on the mids is flat, very flat, which is excellent for a frequency response curve, for spoken word at least. It's also very good to have something like that to manipulate. You can manipulate this one, but I feel like you'll be taking away too much of the tone of the microphone sometimes. Depending on the source, depending on the person, will always be the reason why you do these things, so keep that in mind. Now, finally, the highs, as I said with the ZDM-1, it's just a big curve up there, and the windscreen definitely helps hone that in and bring it down just a little bit to make it to my liking. Otherwise, it sounds a little airy. The Shure, on the other hand, has some nice presence boosts and is really nice. I really like the high end here. But when we're talking about overall curve, I think I prefer the ZDM-1, is because on a curve, it looks more appealing to me. On the Shure, it's nice, and when you think about the tone in relation to that, it's not really nice. But when we're strictly talking about the curve, I lean towards the ZDM-1. It's one of my favorite ones, actually. So for people who think I really hate the ZDM-1, it's not true. I just like to give it a hard time about its thinness, thin skin. It can't take a lot of hits, emotionally and physically. Maybe I should buy another one and start chucking it around the room and see if I could prove to you guys that it's really thin. I won't do that. I won't disrespect gear like that. Now, before we do our off-X rejection, I'm just going to do a noise test. I have some laundry going on in the other room and the dehumidifier as well, so that's something to consider when you're using these microphones in a louder area. There's only so much I can do with the room here. Okay, so like I said, laundry going on in the other room and I boosted it. Let's do some off-X rejection and see how these things are. Alright, so throughout this video, I've been talking about 2-3 inches away from the microphones, and now we're going to back up and do a distance test. Okay, I'm about 2-3 feet away from the fronts of the microphones, and this is what it's going to sound like in the Rebel Tech studio. If you've been here before, or if you've been in the recent comparisons, I mentioned that I rearranged the room so that I can use the booth as kind of like some sound treatment in a way for these videos. And let me know if you notice a difference in the quality compared to the other videos. I'm interested to see if and hear what you guys have to say about that. Now on the ZDM-1 side, about 2 feet away from the ZDM-1, 90-degree test, speaking towards that wall with a lot of stuff on the shelves, and that is kind of like a treatment, quote unquote, because it's not treatment, but it's definitely helpful for reducing reflections off the wall. And there's only so much you can do, but if you have stuff in the room, it certainly helps. Now we're going to go into the sweet spot, 120 to 150 degrees, right about here. And about a foot, maybe a little bit more away from the microphones. And this is where the ZDM-1 probably is going to shine more than the Shure. I know that the Shure is definitely going to have some more rejection, but I definitely think it's going to be in the ZDM-1's favor here. Now on the other side, 90 degrees, on the Shure MV7 side, this is going to be the off-X rejection, speaking towards the other wall, where I have some more treatment, some more moving blankets that help reduce reflection, and definitely a good contrast of what I have to offer with the different environments. Just trying to give some more variety in these videos, and trying to up my quality of audio as best I can. So let's go to the thing, the sweet spot. Ooh, yeah, sweet spot right here. 120 to 150 degrees, right about here. And this is going to be the off-axis rejection. Like I said, supercardioid polar pattern on the ZDM-1 is probably more rejecting than the Shure, but let me know down in the comments what you think. I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but you never know. Lastly, 180 degree off-axis rejection, and this is going to be the 180 degree test. Yeah, that's really, I've been doing so much today. I'm really tired. 2 feet away from the rears. The ZDM-1 and the supercardioid polar pattern usually has a little bit of pickup in the back, but maybe it might not, maybe it might. Just let me know down in the comments what you think, and I'll let you know in the outro what I think about it after I've listened to it in post. All right, so we're in the booth right now with the Shure MV7X and the Zoom ZDM-1. This is going to be an interesting one because I like the way that the Shure has its low presence presented, but also the ZDM-1 has a nice low presence as well. Right now I'm listening to the Shure MV7X, and it's one of those microphones that you really understand what it is by looking at that frequency response curve. It has that presence there that's waved up, like the waviness I was saying before of going up and to the high end. And you hear it in the breaths mostly. You hear when every breath is kind of emphasized. Not emphasized, but it's airy. And I don't mean it in necessarily a bad way, but it is a byproduct of giving you some texture in that high end in the presence. Let's switch over to the ZDM-1 where, yeah, this one gets a little bit more, I don't know, it gives a little bit more low presence. And with this pop filter windscreen on, it does dampen some of those high-end presences. This windscreen here is not as robust, and maybe I'll throw this one on that just for context. I did put on the Shure SM7B's big one on this, and I was not a big fan of it. So let's see what happens when I do it. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a plosive test. So with the Shure MV7X, with the provided windscreen, words work. Let's switch. It's okay. Without with the SE Electronics. Love this thing. And both. Let's actually put this thing on, even though it doesn't really fit that well. No, ain't gonna work. It's too big. ZDM-1. Obviously with it. Without. Not terrible. Not as bad as I remember it. Yeah, rejection and handling noise. And then both. I know that the ZDM-1 mob is going to be after me if I say anything bad about it, but I ain't afraid of you. I know how this microphone is. How when I do this, or just give it a nice caress, it's like growling at me. ZDM-1 mob. That's your new name now. Now going back to the MV7X. That's just caressing it because I'm a weirdo. And also proving a point. I know people are going to say, oh, that's not an accurate representation of how the body is. That's the ZDM-1 mob voice. I'm really pushing the buttons of them. It's hilarious. It's so funny. And they make it out to be like I hate it. I don't hate this microphone, the ZDM-1, but it's what they think. I'm the guy who hates the ZDM-1, apparently. Even though I it won one of them. I think it won against the Pod mic in a head-to-head, even though it didn't get to the last two in the budget broadcast battle. But regardless, let's talk about the tone of these microphones. I'm listening to the Shure MV7X right now, and as I was saying before, and this is more of a deep dive into the tones, and of course, in the outro, I'll let you know how I hear it in post. So I liked it. It's a nice, smooth tone, but it's smooth in the sense that you're not really getting a huge muddiness out of it. There is a little bit of nasaliness out of it, which can be confused for muddy, which in some instances, nasally and muddy, they go hand in hand. But in my specific situation, I noticed that some nasaliness is the issue. And that could be just my voice in general. Now, if we go to the ZDM-1, maybe because the pop filter is suppressing it, let's take this off. And yeah, you got not as much of an airy presence, but it definitely has a little bit of sibilance in there. So that those specific frequencies that are in my sibilance-ness are being emphasized as well. And you hear that airiness in there. Putting this back on, you got more of an emphasis in the low end and less of that trebliness because it's boosted so much, as we spoke about in the frequency response curve. So overall, these are really good options, especially for the price with the ZDM-1. A lot of people got this thing on sale for $50 on Amazon or in other places. I mean, it's a good deal. I mean, I know I give it a hard time, but as far as the price and considering on a curve, it's a good microphone, but it's not a Shure. I mean, maybe I'm just a bit pretentious when it comes to my audio, but that's just my opinion. If you have a different opinion, let's discuss it. Let's just talk about it. No arguments. Just have a conversation, man. Untreated room is next. A more relatable room to a lot of you, so let's get to it. Okay, untreated room time with the Zoom ZDM-1 and the Shure MV7X. Supercardioid and cardioid. This is where the real tests are shown in the differences. The real differences are shown in the test. That's the word. I'm recording all these at once, just so you know, because I'm trying to build up a catalog so I can just edit while I'm working my job in January. So keep that in mind when I'm doing all these tests. And if you're around here, I appreciate it for all these tests and all these videos. It really does mean a lot when I'm staying busy and doing other things and trying to keep up with the channel. So I appreciate your patience and appreciate everybody sticking around. Let's do a distance test and off-axis stuff. All right, now I'm about a foot away from the fronts of the microphones, and this is what it's going to sound like in the untreated room. This is my old bedroom, about 10 by 10, and the ceiling's about maybe like 8 to 10 feet. I don't know exactly. I didn't break out the tape measure on this one. I have a area rug above a wood floor as well, so keep that in mind. There's a lot of stuff in the room, so that's another thing to keep in mind. Could be relative to you and your room as well. All right, 90-degree test on the ZDM-1 side, speaking towards the wall with the windows. This is what it's going to sound like in the untreated room. Off-axis rejection 90 degrees, and remember, supercardioid and cardioid are the differences, which leads me to the sweet spot, which is 120 to 150 degrees. This is what it's going to sound like in the untreated room and the 120 to 150 degree test. The supercardioid should have a lot more rejection here, but the 180 is where the supercardioid has a little bit of pickup. So let's see if there's a difference. All right, 180 degree test, about 2 feet away from the rears of the microphone, still speaking towards that windowed area, and you're probably going to hear more reflection back from the window than my voice hitting the microphone. So the supercardioid is known for having a little bit of pickup in the back. So let me know if you notice a big difference between cardioid on the Shure MV7X and the ZDM-1 and the supercardioid. All right, that's it for this test, and we're going to go down to the studio and I'll give you my impressions after I've listened to it in post and all that stuff, and give you a good idea of where I'm thinking on these two, because you know, this one I give a hard time all the time, but you never know. This one might surprise you. I don't know. It might. All right. Don't be alarmed. You're watching the same video. And yes, I chose the ZDM-1. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why for a couple of reasons. Major reason is I'm grading on a curve. A sub $100 microphone compared to a $180, maybe $150 at times microphone. And it might sound ridiculous, and it might be contrary to what you may think of how I feel about this microphone, but I listened to this thing for about a half hour before recording this, comparing the two, going back and forth, and I will say the quality and the tone of the Shure MV7X is better. Is it twice to maybe 2/3 the price, the quality more? No, absolutely not. And the thing that really pushed me over the edge was the plosive rejection. And I understand that you can put pop filters and other apparatuses in front of the Shure MV7X to make it better at plosive rejection, but this one, with the provided windscreen, which also helps the tuning of it, at least in my opinion, this is just a better setup, and it's got a great price. And to all my ZDM-1 mob members, this one goes out to you. And this one is for you, mostly because I know I give the ZDM-1 a hard time, and I still stand by what I say. The body is not great. But I will say, in this scenario, grading on a curve, the ZDM-1 is the winner. And I won't say that it's like a clear-cut winner, but it's so close that if you really think about it, if you're just a person casually using a microphone for a stream or content creation, and it's your first microphone, or if it's someone who, I don't know, has been doing it for a while, but they're looking for a broadcast microphone or upgrading from a USB microphone, this one is like very low risk because it's not that expensive and pretty good quality. As long as you leave it on a stand and don't really touch it, get the shock mount to go along with it, you should be pretty good. I wouldn't go touching it. I would have it set in place. If you're going to plan on moving it around, I would, one, reconsider using another microphone, maybe the PD70 pod mic, whatever it is, or use some post-processing to get it done. But without me babbling on any further, the ZDM-1 has won. And I'm not going to apologize for my opinions on it. It's just my opinions. It's just how I feel. But I'm going to stop babbling. And thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. Hope the ZDM-1 mob has been satisfied with the outcome of this comparison. And it was very close, like I said. But I appreciate you all watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button down below. It'd be greatly appreciated. It helps this video, helps this channel get out to more people. We're trying to grow this community, try to grow this Rebel Tech community, and really just bring in some new faces. I really love the faces that have been here, but I'd like to see more. So down in the comments section, if you have any questions, comments, or anything whatsoever, please leave it down in the comments. If you're a part of the ZDM-1 mob, please leave your comments down below and just be nice, be constructive. Let's have a conversation about these microphones and have a conversation of where you are in the comparison between these two. Also, another thing, the supercardioid polar pattern was certainly a factor as well. Now, speaking of the community, if you want to join the community, you can subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. We're trying to build this community and get to 2K, 3K, further, maybe get to 10K one day. We don't know. But if you want to join the community even further, the Discord is available, and there are a bunch of people in there, bunch as in 10. And if you can't get me to help you, there could be other people to help you out if they're available, or if they know something a little bit more, maybe their expertise are more in your needs, I guess. I'm really tired right now. I'm recording this right before I'm making a trip for a job. So I apologize for the rant, and I apologize for my tiredness. So I'm going to finish this up. Likes, subscribe, Discord, comments, be nice. And until next time, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.